Welcome to Let's Write This Movie. I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I am Brian Glass.
Today, we will be discussing ringworm and what was sign language like in the Old West. And
René is going to be talking about how his process has gone postmodern.
now, let's write this movie.
It's fine. No, let's just talk about it.
Okay.
Let's pretend we did our intro. Don't put this on, man. Now I can't trust you.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry.
I never know what's going to come up.
I thought you trusted.
All right, I'll just take a chance.
This is how I dance at clubs. Did I mention
What's
I'm
a
single?
club?
Anyway, well, Brian, how was your
Yeah.
week? How was the last week?
A bit hectic, actually. I was traveling for work, so yeah, a little tough to fit everything in. How about you?
Yeah, my week sucked as well. I didn't travel for work, but I kind of grazed my knuckle against my microphone while I was dancing there. That sucks. Everything sucks right now, Brian.
Well,
Trying
everything
not
sucked.
to bleed.
Everything sucked. We're going forward.
Oh,
With the
absolutely.
assumption that everything's fantastic.
This is my vacation right now, doing this show.
This is kind of my vacation too. I mean, I literally just got back, so
That's
this is a great way to
what
start
I'm
it
getting at, bro. Okay, so last week was very hectic work-wise. You know, as I explained on the site,
Yeah.
let's write thismovie.com. I do a lot of freelancing on top of my day job in order to afford the posh accommodations you see behind me. And then I thought, wow, I'm still gonna make it. You know, I got all my freelance stuff out of the way. I was gonna turn in my pages on Wednesday. I was gonna stay up late, and then my friend, who I rarely talk to, but is still, you know, he's one of those friends that you have, that you've had since high school, right? And this is a short tangent. I don't think there's a time limit. I've never told this story before, so I can't put a time limit on it. But anyway, he's got this idea that, I don't know if he still adheres to this, but basically he's got this rule that he doesn't trust people who don't have friends from their high school years.
Okay.
Mainly because when you were in high school, you were still kind of you before you started pretending to be someone else. I guess it's something to that effect, that once you are in college, suddenly there's a lot of artifice into the persona that you are trying to manifest. And in high school, you're just a goofy kid who says the things that are on his or her mind, and you can still get at the heart of the person. Anyway, so there you are. So he's an old friend of mine. Rarely talk to him, and you know, when we get together for these conversations, it's like 4 or 5 hours because we have to catch up on like 3 years worth of what's going on and pop culture and, you know, other stuff. So
It's a marathon.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And as someone who goes to sleep at 8 o'clock to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, talking until 1 a.m. is very arduous. All of this is to say that unexpected things came up in my life and delayed me, but I was still able to turn in my pages within the week. And since we're delaying this discussion one day anyway, I don't see any harm.
There you go. I don't have a long story other than I was traveling and I didn't have time to do multiple reads. Plus, one thing I did want to bring up is that since you're working over there in the posh accommodations in California, and I am, stuck in the rugged valley of Arizona, and then temporarily in the rugged valley of the Las Vegas Strip, I didn't know like what you had actually gone back and done and did. So I and by the time I actually got to this thing, I think it was yesterday or the day before, whenever it was like midnight, because all my times were all messed up because of work over there. So I'm not going to call you. So I decided, I better go back to page 1 and reevaluate everything, because I'm not sure what else might have changed.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And, the good thing is that first one that had been rewritten, and it felt like, because I didn't have all my notes from before, felt like there were even a few little touches here and there just to kind of fine tune some things, which caught my eye. So it was interesting to go back all the way, but of course, to read it and really put yourself in the moment, and not just kind of get through really quickly, just takes a little extra time. So
yeah,
but I'm glad I did. I just didn't have time to go through multiple attempts, and I think you'll see that when we do our read through today of the new material.
Yeah,
when I stumble 82 times.
Hey, all you have to do is read the exposition. I have to actually like perform. And I've done no rehearsals. I was so pressed for time, everybody, and as a person who is in marketing for my day job, I'm very deadline driven. And if it comes down, if I have to choose between hitting a deadline and quality, it's always going to be the deadline. I always hit the deadline, or at least I try to. Things have to be sacrificed sometimes, and it's triage time, but. Yeah. Anyway, I think I don't need to expound further on that. So
I have decided to read all of the interstitial stuff in the voice of my version of Sally. So when you say we're not performing, I don't know, man. I don't know. I question that.
Okay.
I question. Oh, mine sounds a little bit more like a Watto.
Exactly.
I question that. Oh, the Watto, the New Jersey thug, apparently.
Right.
What you gonna do, Luke?
What is that?
Anakin,
it's
whatever.
Like a little bit of Untouchables in there too.
Oh my.
Is there anything else I wanted to say here? Oh, so you asked me as I turned in the pages to you for review. You asked me, "Are you happy with the pages?"
Yeah.
And I assumed that was out of concern that I was just rushing these pages to get them to you.
It was.
Oh, what's that?
It was.
Of course. Yeah, I would be concerned as well. But as I was, here's the thing. When there is the whole idea that adage, pressure builds diamonds, I do feel like there were some diamonds that came from this. Now, they have to be polished once I go over them again after today. But there were things that I hadn't even planned. But I felt like, wow, this is pretty good character development. And I'm sure we're going to touch on those. Now, the last thing I want to say is...
Wait, I need to respond to that first.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I do have a history with working with René. And as before, as is now, the quality does not suffer when you are under pressure. So I was very happy with what I read. I'll just as a little preview. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. As a quick aside, Brian, cut me off if we don't want this shared, but Brian and I used to work together.
No. Okay, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's too late now. Preparing you. This is training for the live stream, Brian, once we get to that level.
It's all live stream.
I know.
Now, from now on,
exactly.
Man, it's all live.
Anyway, and yeah, I used to come up with just some hilarious things. And it's like the things you can get away with in marketing.
The most banal type of products that we had to describe.
Well, you got to keep it interesting. You can go crazy.
Yeah, René was writing for an audience of one many times because no one else was reading the stuff, but I was sitting there laughing.
Oh yeah,
laughing in the next door to him. So we had a lot of fun.
Okay, and the last thing I want to say is, so you going back to read from page 1 every time. I don't know if this is going to continue, but I suspect there are going to be times when you're going to want to just read how it all flows together, and I don't blame you. But that aligns with the way I tend to write, which is as I explore further into the story, as it develops in my mind as I'm writing, I realize, oh, you know what? If I went back and I wrote this thing in the beginning, that could be the foundation for this thing that I'm writing right now. Like I can't just have this character come out of nowhere. I need to insert him earlier or something like that, or this item, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that what happens is I tend to just keep going back to the beginning and writing the whole thing again. Granted, it's less each time. I'm not rewriting whole pages necessarily,
right.
But it really slows down the writing process for me. And there's this story, and I'm going to butcher it because I've only heard it once, and I always try to retell it the way I heard it, and I can't even remember how I heard it exactly. But basically, it's the road painter, the guy who paints the line in the road. Mm-hmm. And so this guy's hired to paint the line in the road, and the first day he paints a mile, and then the next day he paints half a mile, and then the next day he paints a quarter mile, and his boss sees that the quantity of road being painted is decreasing every day, and he wants to know why. And so he asks the road painter, what's going on? You started with a whole mile in the beginning. Now it's down to half a mile or a quarter mile. And the road painter says, well, it would go faster if I didn't have to keep walking back to the beginning to dip my brush in the paint bucket. So I always think of that story as I go back to page 1 and I start writing again, like, oh yeah, hey, some new dialogue. This works.
Right. Well, I think it's funny is since I was away, I didn't have all my old notes, and I keep all my written notes, for before. And so I'm reading it and I'm like, wait a second, page 1 seems different. Did I miss this? Or is this like, my memory is not that great for things like this. I will bring it up because there were a few things that kind of struck me. I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. Is it better? Is it different? Just little things.
Sure.
So I can see that, and I guess the reality is that you're just polishing as you go. And I think that's smart. I had another thought, which is, I guess, sort of related. And that is, let's say we got this whole thing, got to the end and it's really polished nicely and everything flows really well. What I'm a little concerned about is what would happen, if I was to read it at that point fresh and look at it as just as a final script and say, I don't really understand this character. I don't really understand why this happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid that, that those types of things might still happen at the end of a finished screenplay, even though we may have been doing this every week and kind of doing building blocks.
Yeah.
When we go back and really reread it, maybe something just doesn't feel like it's up to snuff, as compared to the rest of the story, and I'm just kind of preparing you and me for that in case it happens where, well, wait a second, in week 7, we talked about this and we kind of, ironed everything out and we both felt like we had gotten past that. I'm going to always try and be objective and objectively critical, even if we have kind of gotten through something already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the first time, so.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, the idea, I came up with this idea of writing this in front of the internet. I was hoping that the internet would be that extra perspective to say, wait a second, this isn't believable to me. This dialogue doesn't make sense. Something to that effect. So hopefully we can avoid those pitfalls. But, there are scripts that I've written where I can say, you know what, there's a leap here between this scene and this scene that, I don't necessarily believe that this character would do this or that this other character would react a certain way. Mm-hmm. I just go with it. I say, you know what, it sort of works, and hopefully audiences can go with it. Hopefully they will be, you're reading a script, right? But when you watch a movie, there's so much more going on. You have music, you have camera angles, you have actors' expressions that can communicate so much to an audience where they can say, okay, I get it. While the dialogue, let's say, doesn't communicate the emotional content that I think I would need in real life to expect another character to react.
Yeah.
Because of this, because of the other communication you're receiving as an audience member watching a movie, hopefully that will be enough to convince you that the movie is not broken.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So let me relate this a little bit to my experience, something completely different, but I also do quite a bit of marketing. And part of that oftentimes is graphic design. And in developing things like logos, I found that it's best to create a logo from scratch for a client in black and white, even though ultimately it will probably never be used in black and white, or very, very rarely. And that is because if I can get a client to buy onto the logo and the idea behind it, the story, whatever I'm trying to convey through it, and they love it, then they're going to be over the moon when we add color to it, because it's always been my experience. So just relaying that back to a movie, if we can get a script to the point where it's just like, oh, this is killer, and the director's going to come in and add some different shades to it and colors to it, but that logo is just locked. You know what I mean? That script is just locked in as is.
Yeah.
We don't have those, well, I'll have to kind of figure out how to convey this. Insert cool thing here, you know?
Well, hey, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be lazy about it, right?
No.
I'm going to write to the best of my ability. I think there is such a thing as overwriting something. And I also have to expect that the script is going to change once it leaves my hands.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think there comes a time where you have to say, well, is the effort is the reward going to be worth the effort?
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I mean, the idea of diminishing returns is certainly applicable, but
yeah,
just want to make sure we're like, it's locked in. We feel both like there's no egregious error, like, most of it's great. I want to get it all.
Yeah, don't read that page.
How come it goes from 82 to 84? I don't want to see 83.
Trying to be avant-garde.
Yeah, exactly. Numbers and letters and symbols.
Don't time me down, dialogue. Bro. You took improv classes, right?
Yes, and
exactly. Well, you watch a lot of these modern comedies. There's a lot of improv going on there.
Absolutely, a lot of takes.
Yeah, a lot of takes. Yeah. Anyway, Brian, is there anything else you wanted to address before we get into any notes?
No, I think let's dig in.
Is there anything I wanted to address? Hang on. Nope. If I did, I can't remember them. Hooray!
So you can just jump in wherever you need to.
Wonderfully produced show.
All right. So where did we start? Where are we going to start? On 8? Is that what you mentioned?
Okay. So last week the new pages were 8 to 17.
Got it. Then let me address page 1.
Okay, I don't have that on screen, so
it's okay. People just have to listen. But this is like one of the things that kind of struck me. There's the first little dialogue between Jimmy and Sarah. And Sarah says, "This is silly. Get back in here before you fall and crack your head. We've been here for 20 minutes. If you're not going to go see what's wrong, then I will." Did that change? Is that new? Because that seems to flow a lot better than I even recall the last time.
I changed that last time.
You did?
Yeah.
Bad memory.
That's all good.
I must really like it then.
See?
All right. The other things I have for my reread of 1 through 7 is minor, and I'll just give it to you on fax.
Okay.
Email, rather. So, okay. So we're on 8.
All right. Well, actually, before we continue, we've never had comments before until now, but we did have a reader/viewer comment. Viewer Irina suggested she liked the idea about the harmonica, and she suggested a way we could get the harmonica in. So I also had a similar idea. I just never talked about it, but perhaps Jimmy could be playing the harmonica to pass the time in the beginning.
Okay.
And that's the thing that's stolen from him. And maybe it's not Jimmy hanging out the window, it's Sarah, because she's the one who's curious. Whereas Jimmy's like, this happens all the time, probably. I'm just going to, play my harmonica while we wait.
Mm-hmm.
And so because she's the headstrong one hanging out the window, what's going on? What's going on out there? She gets sick of it, and she can still go forward. And then when they get robbed, Jimmy has to hand over the harmonica. Long, riffs on it a little bit. And then he can have harmonica. And then at the end, when he's seeing them off, because they're the only other two survivors, he gives back the ring, and he looks at the harmonica, and Jimmy's looking back at him, like expectantly. And Long just says, I'm keeping this. I don't know what the dialogue is, but he basically says, I'm keeping this. And then he rides off.
Yeah, that's fun. So Sarah and Jimmy live? They're the only survivors other than him?
Yes.
That may have been your treatment. I don't recall.
No, it was not, but we did talk about it.
Okay. So when he faces the Marshal towards the end, is he going to, play it?
Well, he's going to... Hang on, Marshal, hang on. Got to make it dramatic.
Or Jimmy plays it off to the side. He gets it back. He plays off the side, and Long just shoots him a look. He stops. No? Wrong movie? Wrong tone? Sorry.
That's the spoof version of this. That's Scary Movie 19 that will have that scene.
Scary zombie western.
Okay. So that is TBD. I don't even know if TBD is the right...
I think it's a good idea. It's interesting. I don't read the comments, so I didn't. I guess I should. Fine. I guess I should start reading comments. Yeah, I think that's a kind of fun idea, though.
Fantastic.
Plus, you want to have the harmonica, so.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it's too much. Mm-hmm. But we're gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna park it, Brian.
Parking lot. I'm gonna let that marinate for a while.
Corporate America.
Yes.
Gotta love the buzzwords. Okay, Brian. So, are we going to? Do you have any notes? Starting with 8, or do you still want to go to the old pages?
No, let's go to the new ones.
All right. So let me just pull up the script. Actually, we'll do this one. What else, Brian?
So my first note is on page 10. And this was in response to the Tooth Fairy comment. And sorry. This is in response to the Tooth Fairy comment that you evidently took that note and did some rewriting there. And this is like an example of where I would say the brevity is really nice.
Okay.
I think it really just like, snaps. It seems like it's a natural conversation of two guys who have had these kinds of conversations in the past.
Yeah. I made the relationship less cantankerous.
Yeah.
And more like, hey, we're old friends, haven't seen each other in a while.
Yeah.
Light teasing.
But it seems natural, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but later when Sally says the Saber-Tooth brothers, was that there before?
No, that's new.
So this is building on the same type of idea, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, they just have nicknames for them.
Plus, on your picture now, you've got the the tooth on the bandana, which looks nice. I like that idea. Yeah. I think it's kind of a fun, like, easy visual to get your head around and strong. So, yeah. And I like the idea on page 10 as well, on the bottom, when Long says, Marshal, which one this time?
Right.
I'm like, okay, so this is expanding the universe a little bit. And he's not just ticked off the one guy that we know. No, he's got a pretty long history here. He's been at this for a while. So I thought that was cool, that he didn't know it was James immediately, or Everett James immediately. I thought little things like that, just kind of growing a universe, I think is really cool.
This is how I do it, Brian. I write that, I built that very rough foundation. Now I start chiseling the detail.
Yeah, I like that. And on page 11, I think that getting Bao involved like this, I definitely think that's cool.
That's your idea. I liked it. So
yeah, this is nice. Again, brevity is great. I now know what they usually do. They usually go get the girls, but this time Bao wants to drink. I mean, that's kind of fun. And I like the Sabertooth brothers, um, the little comment as well. Sorry, nothing but praise on this one, I think, so far.
Oh, good.
Nothing.
I'm glad you approve of the changes.
Yeah. Okay, so on page 12 in the middle, it says Bao knocks on the bar top twice and signals with two fingers to pour one for him as well. When I read signals with two fingers, I thought he was ordering a double, just so you know.
Hmm. Okay.
Isn't that what people do? They do like the two fingers, like they want a double.
Well, I mean,
Drink.
I guess typically, but when you're dealing with someone who can't speak, uh, he might, maybe they just already understand his signals to mean, pour two, not just one for long.
Got it. Okay. So I guess I could say like Bao knocks on the bar top twice, signaling to pour one for him as well.
Okay. Yeah, that could be more clear.
Just a slight simplification. Okay. So on page 13, so now we're getting introduced a little bit more clear to Chief Redfeather. And I didn't quite understand on the very top of 13 when it says Chief looks like he's about to cry, where you were going with that. And so before you answer, I'll kind of give you my impressions because I want to give you the reader's impressions as it might be read, rather than how you intended it. To me, it sounded like he was weak. And I didn't know if he was weak or is it just that she owns him? Is he in despair? I'd like to know a little bit more about him. And then I had some other thoughts, like, does he maybe hold her gaze for a few too many seconds, before responding? Is he upset? Is he withdrawn? I didn't quite understand what was going on in his head based on, looks like he's about to cry.
Yeah, totally. It was a little rushed here, and I think I could devote a couple or another block of text to describe that he's, he looks like a broken man. And maybe describe, the deep crevices in his face to show like he's, he just looks aged because of this experience. And this is his only outlet or his only little bit of happiness in life is just to drink, and he can't have it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Just to get a little bit more on him.
Totally.
So the next thing it says about him is Chief signs indignantly.
Yeah, it's meant to say size. That's I caught that. If everyone watching can see that I have size, but it's not signs.
Oh, okay. I'm like, is he deaf? I didn't.
No.
Okay. I'll skip the rest of those comments, and you can ignore them when you read them.
It's fine.
All right. So just another thought here as well, just to kind of tie the new action back into the conversation a little bit. I was thinking that maybe Zeke at some point, walks away to get something from while he's starting his discussion with the brothers, and then, we see Chief, and then when Chief looks up longingly at the twin tomahawk axe that's displayed above the bar, I was thinking like maybe Zeke can slap, Chief on the back, and rejoin Long and Bao, because Chief is obviously a fixture there. It sounds like Zeke is as well.
Yeah.
So just to kind of integrate them back into the action, then he brings them back into the conversation between Long and just Long and Zeke, but really Long, Zeke, and Bao.
Yeah.
So just like a little action thought.
Oh yeah, totally. That can totally happen.
Okay.
I'll probably have to reading this dialogue now. I think I can change the dialogue a little bit. This whole, when Sally says you can have your silly tomahawks back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's bad dialogue. I should probably just throw in some action here where Chief looks up at the tomahawks and Sally follows his gaze. Right. She says, "You can have them back after you pay off what you owe." Something like that. That seems to be a little more natural than saying, "You can have those silly tomahawks." Who talks like that?
Not her. How does she talk?
I know, Brian.
Like, I'm going to save it.
Exactly.
All right. And let's see here. My next note doesn't occur till page 16.
Okay. All right.
And it's just a little tiny thing. Since Everett asked Stan about, where he can get a drink, the first thing that Stan says basically is that you can go to Nine Lives or Sally's. Nine Lives is a cat house. I didn't get the impression based on what he responds, though, that it's a cat house with a bar, or that serves or something like that.
Okay.
So just like I just wrote in here, Nine Lives is a cat house that serves, but the girls also put on a decent show if it's the kind of entertainment you're looking for, whatever. Just to make it very clear that he's not just like answering his question, well, you can go to a, whorehouse or you can go to a bar. It's like, I said, I want to drink. You know what I mean? Were you listening? Sounds like Sally's.
Yeah.
Just a subtle thing. And let's see. The final. Well, I have a couple things. I just wrote I guess just check marks, on the Maggie conversation. I think it was just reined in a little bit. So I like that.
Yeah.
So on 17, when Billy does his "Don't shoot my daddy" line. Yeah. I was wondering if Everett says Everett smiles as if for the first time in a long time. Like he's amused by this reaction. I kind of got like he was amused by the fact that he wants to be a marshal too. He does the bang, 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 you bad man.
Yeah.
But maybe the "Don't shoot my daddy" is a little bit more curious, or he probably knows the history of it.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if maybe in that line of Everett's action, should there be like a modifier?
A wistful smile.
Yeah, wistful smile or surprised Everett smiles. Something there just to kind of say, oh, I didn't expect that particular thing to come out of his mouth, but okay. Knowingly, whatever it is. Just to kind of indicate that he's got that knowledge, even though I'm sure we're going to hear more about them later.
Sure. I'll consider that.
Little things, man.
No, I hear you. It's just, that's a lot to convey to an actor to say, okay, I'm trying to show that this family, they have a special meaning to him, to Everett, and to ask an actor to not only show that, but then also show this kind of like underlying sorrow beneath this smile, this endearing smile. I don't even know how a person conveys that.
Okay, so alternatively, if you read that and you didn't know how to play it, wouldn't that kind of intrigue you as an actor or as a reader?
Yeah, maybe, possibly. Sure.
I like the ideas of having layers there.
Okay. Wistful it is then, Brian. Wistful smile.
What does that even look like?
Exactly. So intriguing. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, right? Two-Face. Just like a two-face guy.
Now that's going to be like the thumbnail of this episode. I really got to stop doing anything.
All right. I also gave Ray a little bit of more dialogue here to talk about, that he's helping her run the ranch.
Right. Yeah, I did have something. I did actually have a check on that too. When I think about it. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to hammer home that, he's a free man, right? He's not a slave, because I wasn't sure if that was going to come across. I don't know if people realize that 1880, it's 15 years removed from the end of the Civil War.
Right.
So I just didn't want people to get the wrong idea. So I thought I was going to have him say something about, basically the idea of how good it feels to be working of your own volition. I don't know exactly what the dialogue I was working on was, but then as I tried to work it in here, I was like, that's way too much to work into a conversation.
What's his trajectory? What happens to him?
So I'm not exactly sure yet. He is going to die, obviously. I don't know if he's going to die heroically or he's going to die like betraying the group. I am thinking of throwing in. Okay, so this is all inchoate, so if I start rambling or my sentences stop completing, you'll understand why. But there's this great zombie movie, a French zombie movie that I love. I think it is really well done. It's called The Horde. And I don't know if you've seen it, Brian.
Not yet.
Okay. Basically, there are these two groups in this building trying to get out of this zombie-infested building. And one is a group of gangsters, and the other group is a group of cops. And as they go through their journey, the sides keep losing or adding people. And so one side is always outnumbering the other. And there's this interplay. It's really dynamic because of that, right? And I wanted to have something similar here where, you have, as I've set up here in the beginning of this movie, Long has his group of friends and Everett has his own kind of support group within this town.
Right.
And, the two sides are going to have to work together to survive. And some people peel off, some people die. And so, where influence can be had within each group, I want to play with that. So I'm thinking, when Sam gets to town and they're deciding, hey, are we going to still try to rob the bank, or are we just going to try to get away on the horses that the guards are bringing that evening? Maybe they'll try to convince Ray that, you need to be a bad guy with the rest of us, and touch on, you're old enough to remember what it was like to be, a slave on the plantation. Why are you going to throw in, with these people whose parents probably owned, your family, something like that. I don't know yet. So will Ray be a bad guy? Will he help the bad guys? Will he stay with the good guys? Who knows? What do you think?
I think it's interesting to explore.
Okay.
I'm always one in a story to gravitate towards character development with a backdrop of action rather than the other way around. So I think that anything you can do to create different dynamics and relationships is cool. So I think it's an interesting idea. I almost feel like you're a bit of a postmodern writer, where you're just like letting the characters lead you a little bit and see where they're going to take you as you write. It's kind of interesting to watch. I mean, it's not the way I would write at all. But like, it feels like it kind of feels like it's going to get wherever it's going to get organically. And you're not sure yet, which path it's going to take. I think it's kind of neat.
So I'll reiterate that I don't think this is the proper way to write anything, to write a story. But in the absence of having the time to outline everything, and as someone who hates to outline, if you're going to outline, as I said before, if you're going to outline the movie, just write the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't totally buy that, just because in literature you have postmodern writers who really kind of do it the way you're saying it. I mean, they may have some general ideas. Absolutely. There's a whole movement.
Oh, no, I believe you. I don't know that I like that, though.
It's who you are, man. Embrace it. It's cool.
Okay.
You're not an outline guy. It's good. You're a pressure cooker.
Yeah. Well, this all stems from being lazy, Brian. Let's just put it, let's be honest. Put my cards on the table.
Whatever, you can't be lazy and then have your job plus these other side jobs plus this. I do not agree.
Well, I think there are different forms of laziness, and this is the form that I've taken. In that, if I see steps that are unnecessary, I like to skip them. I like to excise them from the process. And I remember being taught how to outline in elementary school, and I thought, why is this necessary? It's like training wheels. Just write your essay. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, that goes very much against what you just said. Because when you're at that age, you're certainly not lazy. You're making a choice. I'm just saying it's who you are. It's cool. It's fine. Embrace it.
Okay. I embrace it. I just don't know that this is the right way to do it. I think if I did just buckle down and write an outline, all of this would be so much easier.
It also may not be inspired as you write.
No, of course
you may not enjoy it as much, and it may feel formulaic instead of organic. So I have a feeling, I don't know this for sure, obviously, but who knows down the line, but I have a feeling that if a professional screenwriter who's had many scripts purchased and well regarded in the business, if you ask them, they would say everyone's process is different and not everyone outlines. I'll bet you.
Okay.
So
yeah, they'll say Everyone's processes are different. Some processes are bad. Like René Garcia. You see this guy's show on YouTube? Terrible. He has an outline.
Next time our next show next week, I'm going to send you an outline for the show.
Okay. Thanks.
And then you'll see how boring it is.
Yeah. It already sounds boring.
Laugh here. Oh. All right.
What next? Is that it? We're at the new
That's
pages.
it, man. Yeah, new pages.
Okay. Here we go.
Can you, for authenticity's sake, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind doing a little extra editing, would you mind doing all of the Cantonese and then just doing subtitles over it?
Oh, I wouldn't mind at all, Brian. Let me just pull up Google Translate. Okay, so we are at the top of 18. I have it up. Let me just move this over.
Are we going full script page again?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Faces are hidden.
All right. So we're at Interior Sally Saloon, right?
Let's see. Everett watches. Well, it starts really after she says, after she lays her hand on his heart. Then goes inside. So the beginning line is Everett watches her go.
All right, go for it then. I'll take it after you start yours then.
What? What, I'm doing Maggie?
No, Everett.
No, Everett watches her go. Then he dusts his hat off his thigh.
Oh, that wasn't there before?
No.
Hey, René, did you know that Everett watches her go? Then he dusts his hat off his thigh. Let's try that again. Because we're gonna start strong.
Do it.
Everett watches her go. Then he dusts his hat off of his thigh.
Everett. Hell. Where's that drink?
He begins walking down the street. Interior, Sally Saloon, continuous. Long weighs the pros and cons of Zeke's plans with Bao.
Long, in Cantonese. We'll have to deal with that sheriff. Not sure how many men are in the bank, but if Zeke is right about the silver, then that's plenty to split 5 ways.
Bao extends his fingers and thumb on one hand, then bends his thumb in. Then he makes a gun shape out of his pointer finger and thumb. He looks at Long expectantly.
Long. In English. Yes, 5 of us are going in, but only 4 of us are shooting, if it comes to that.
Bao looks away and shakes his head.
Long. I don't want you killing anyone. I never wanted that for you. In Cantonese. You are my little brother, and I will always protect you, even from yourself.
Bao slaps the back of his hand into his palm, then makes a jumping off gesture with both. Long looks away and both men stare across the bar at the bric-a-brac lining the back wall. There are old photos. One of them is of a train.
Long. That was a long time ago. It was an accident. A mistake. It wasn't your fault.
Bao downs the rest of his drink and sets it down carelessly.
Long. We don't need you to kill anyone. And once this job is done, we can go back home rich men, where you'll never have to think about killing anyone again.
Long grabs Bao by the scruff and shakes him in a brotherly, cajoling way.
Long, in Cantonese. You've come this far without the stain of murder on your soul. Come with me a little longer.
Bao sighs and nods. Long grins and laughs. He turns to find Zeke in the room.
Long. Zeke, you've got a deal.
Sorry, I was making a note.
No, it's
Sally,
fine.
Zeke and Sally approach. Sally pours them all shots.
Zeke, toasting. To our good fortune. Sally. Here. Oh, God. Here. That's as good as it's going to get.
They drink and slam the shot glasses down on the bar.
Zeke. Bao, you still carry dynamite on you?
Bao looks around first before lifting his poncho to reveal 2 sticks of TNT tucked in his belt.
Zeke. Perfect. That'll come in handy if we can't persuade old Booney to open the vault. Long. Booney? Zeke. Bank manager. George Boone. Lives above the bank. Likes to be close to the money. Sally. I don't blame him. Long. So, what's the plan then? Zeke. Let's go over that in the morning. Right now, I owe you two a couple of girls.
He begins to walk toward the front exit.
Long. Oh, no, you don't. Zeke. I thought you wanted... Long. I do. But let's just say your taste in women makes me question your eyesight. I'll pick the girls. Zeke. Suit yourself. But hold on.
He cracks open the saloon door and signals to a man leaning against the wall across the street. The man looks around nonchalantly before nodding back to Zeke.
Zeke. Looks clear. Just be quick. Long. Mother hen.
He exits. Exterior, Sally Saloon, continuous. Long walks out into the bright afternoon. Across from him is the Nine Lives Cat House, where men practically jog toward the other men. Across from him is the Nine Lives Cat House, where men practically jog toward and other men stumble out. Sultry women stand on the veranda above the entrance, waving handkerchiefs and beckoning men. Long grins eagerly as he begins crossing toward the bustling activity. Long pauses to let a horse-drawn cart ride past him, but as he does so, his attention is drawn to a figure standing in the street further down the road. Everett stops in his tracks as Long is revealed by the horse-drawn cart riding past. His eyes squint, unsure of what he's seeing. Then a whisper spills over his lips.
Everett. I don't... Long
Finishes the sentence.
Long. Believe it.
An alien silence falls over the once busy street. Townsfolk quickly understand the situation and begin disappearing into buildings, but peek out of windows and doorways. Long and Everett just stare at each other. The men stand roughly 50 feet apart and speak loudly to ensure each other is heard.
Long. Marshal Everett James. Fancy meeting you here. How long has it been? 5 years? We must do this more often. Everett. Fang Long, you are under arrest for the crimes of... Long. I know my crimes, Marshal. Your last deputy read them to me right before I shot him in the face. What was his name? Everett. Charlie Wright. From Missouri. Long. And the one before that, outside of Benson. Everett. Preston Hughes. From Kansas. Long. What's the name of the next one? And the one after that? How many more men have to die for your cause? None. No one else has to die. Turn around and go home.
For a moment, Everett looks like he might consider it.
Long. Don't you miss your wife, your children? How many years have you wasted chasing me? How long have I separated you from your family?
Everett's eyes flash, and he hooks the length of his duster around his holster to make access to his gun easier. Simultaneously, Long hooks his coat around his holster. Interior, Porter's General Goods, continuous. The men of the posse are spread out, resupplying. Stan is eating an apple as he casually steps to the window.
Hang on. So I stupidly muted myself. Let's go back. Let's go back up a little bit here.
Great.
I don't remember. I can't tell where I muted myself. So let's start with for a moment, Everett looks like he might consider it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let's start with My Cause is the Law from Everett. So I'll start there.
All right,
here we go. Everett. My cause is the law, and those deputies died in service to it. And, God willing, their families will see justice is done.
Interior, Porter's General Goods, continuous. The men of the posse are spread out, resupplying. Stan is eating an apple as he casually steps to the window and looks outside. He sees Everett just down the street.
Stan. To posse. Get your guns. Get in position.
The posse look at each other for a moment, but jump into action when they see Stan running upstairs to the roof. Exterior, Sally's saloon, continuous.
Everett. Fang Long, you are under arrest for the crimes of robbery and murder, including Deputy Marshals Wright and Hughes. Surrender, or I will kill you.
Interior, Sally's saloon, continuous. Bao stares sullenly at the train picture on the wall before he downs another shot. Long's voice turns him around.
Long, touch that gun and I will send you to hell.
Bao instinctively grabs his rifle and rushes to the door. Exterior, Sally's saloon, continuous.
Everett, I'll see you there.
The air turns electric as the eyes of both men scan each other for movement. Hands slowly inch towards grips. Heels dig into the dirt. Weight is shifted. Exterior, Porter's General Goods, roof, continuous. Stan reaches the roof and shoulders a rifle. He kneels down behind a low wall and aims at Long. Suddenly, Bao explodes out of Sally's, rifle on shoulder. He lets out a muted cry as he aims blindly down the street.
Long, no!
Exterior, Porter's General Goods, roof, continuous. Insert, Stan's rifle sight. At the last moment, Stan changes targets and aims at Bao. Back to scene. Exterior, Sally's saloon, continuous. A rifle shot hits Bao in the chest just as he squeezes the trigger. His bullet grazes Everett across the side of his head, sending him to the ground. Long is stunned momentarily as he watches his brother fall, but becomes aware quickly. He senses attackers moving into position around him.
There we are.
There we are.
We're back. So I really wish I had the time to conclude this scene, because that would have been a great stopping point. But that's what I get for having friends and being loyal to them.
Well, I will tell you right now, the very first thing I wrote on here, and it's written right there, is I can't believe you stopped writing in the middle of a fight.
Dude, I know. Exactly.
I'm
exactly.
Like, seriously? How could you do that to me?
Yeah, I really felt you were getting into it too with your reading here.
Yeah, I was trying to,
move
the action along.
Seriously, it read the way I wanted it to be read. So I was pretty proud of that, just hearing it back right now.
Good.
It was nice.
I don't know if we're going to be able to pick it up exactly at that pace next time, since it's the middle of a fight.
Exactly. We'll be all jovial. Oh, and then Long shoots a guy. His head exploded.
All right, man. Yeah, so I mean, generally, I think this is it flows really well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like that we're building on the same characters. Nothing really new in terms of new characters being added, which is great. So I feel like we're sitting with them, we're learning more about them, and the action makes sense. I think that most of my notes are kind of small. You know what I mean? There's nothing like, there's an overriding problem here.
Yeah.
I think there's one that may, that could shift the plan, the script a little bit, but most of them are, I think, a bit more innocuous, or I just need a little bit more explanation. So why don't we just go and start from 18, if that's okay? And
that's fine. Let's get back there. Okay, top of 18.
All right, so Long's first little speech here when he says, we'll have to deal with the sheriff, that?
Yeah.
So
you thought it was weak?
I'm sorry?
Did you think it was weak? Weak dialogue?
No, but when he says that's playing to split 5 ways, as putting myself into the audience, I was like, okay, wait a second, five ways. We've got Long, Bao, Sam, Zeke. Who's the 5th person?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't dawn on me that Sally would be the 5th person.
Makes sense.
And that could be a choice for you. And I didn't know if that was intentional or not. Like, you don't want the audience necessarily to know who we're talking about yet. That's how I read it.
Okay.
Like, you didn't want to be explicit, which I think is fine. But I will just let you know, as a reader, I was a little bit like, I stopped there for a second. Like, who's the 5th person?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I was
I mean, you could
hoping
be.
I was hoping that the relationship between Zeke and Sally would be more obvious because they're talking about, being jealous and kissing, all of that. So I
Right,
just
right.
figured the audience would accept that they were a couple,
Oh, okay.
and therefore, and since they are well acquainted with the Fang brothers, that they're into nefarious things, and tried to reinforce that with Stan's backstory or
Okay.
explanation of her history.
Right, right. I guess I never saw them as a couple. I didn't realize
Okay.
that. I just thought that they were a long time, they're just people who have known each other forever. And when she later, joins for the toast, it seemed natural.
Okay.
So it just felt like the script is like literally I think a page ahead of me, which I'm totally fine with. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you knew it was one of those things that stopped me for a second. I'm totally okay with it. It's more of a question as a writer if that was what you wanted to intend.
I could, not necessarily. I wanted to be clear that she's involved.
Okay.
I could write something, when she is chastising Chief, perhaps she can say something like, Hun, and then she obviously is referring to Zeke, and then Zeke
Yeah.
jumps in there and explains, come on, Chief, you can't be doing this, or
Yeah.
whatever, So there's this kind of like, just more attachment between the two.
Right. Or you could alternatively do something like maybe she is talking to the chief and she's like looks to all of them and says, "Boys, you guys better figure out this plan," and just addresses them like, "Go get those details done." Kind of up to you if you feel like.
Okay.
I don't think it's actually necessary to do either, to be honest with you, but it's more of just an intention question at this point.
Yeah.
And
All right.
it's a small thing. One thing though is you said we'll have to deal with the sheriff, right?
Yeah.
And Long is aware that the marshal is also in town, and I would think that he'd be more pressed and more concerned about the marshal, since this is all supposed to take place tomorrow night, and there's a good chance the marshal will still be in town at that time. So I was like, for him not to address the fact that the marshal and his boys are there, felt like he wasn't taking them seriously.
Well, that's why I have dialogue where Zeke explains that they're leaving in the morning.
That the marshal's leaving in the morning? Did I
Yeah.
miss that?
It's in the previous page, or several pages back when
Okay.
when they're in the hallway, and they talk about it's new dialogue. They like, which marshal, right? He says, Everett James, the quiet one, right? And then when Bao and Long look at each other, Zeke says, no need to soil your bridges. They're leaving in the morning.
Okay. So maybe then, just to kind of solidify that, you just put the word "still" in. We'll still have to deal with the sheriff.
Okay, perfect.
As in,
I can do
he's
that.
still left over.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a little trouble following a couple things that I was reading, actually,
Okay.
which are the descriptions of what Bao does.
All right.
So when Bao extends his fingers and thumbs, that whole thing there,
Yeah.
and then Bao slaps the back of his hand and makes a jump. I was lost on both of these.
Okay.
So maybe you can show me what you're intending, because I couldn't quite pick it up.
Yeah. It's hard to describe fake sign language, right? So basically, Bao is trying to explain to Long, like, okay, it's going to be 5 of us, right? And then 4, he's saying that 4 of us will have guns. We'll be shooting,
Oh,
right?
okay. I mean, when you say it, okay, I can totally see it.
Yeah, no,
But I
exactly.
was sitting there doing it, bends his thumb in, they makes a gun shape. Is this a? I couldn't understand it.
Okay, well, I tried to explain it through Long's dialogue right after that.
Oh, I know, and I got that, and I
Yeah.
still couldn't understand it.
Okay.
5 of us are going in, only 4 of us are shooting. If it comes to that, yeah, I get it. I just I couldn't follow it.
It's one of those things that I think are just going to have to be like shown. Like they're going to have me on the set and like, hey, René, what does this mean? I'll be like, well, what do you think it means? 5-4 gun. That's all. Let's do that. How much more clear can I be?
Bow signals 5 when it's hand. Bow signals 4.
Yeah, but who knows what 5? That could mean anything. Does he make like a little like, oh, this is 5? Does it look like 5? I don't know what I'm doing.
I think it needs a polish, man.
Okay. Hey, I mean, if that you think that's necessary, I can do that. I just feel like, man,
I don't want anyone to read it and trip, like get stuck on like, what is he even saying here? Yeah, of course it's explained to some extent.
Yeah.
Next, if they can figure out that it's being tied together, but I don't want a reader to be stuck on something like I was, because I don't just like read it and mark it like there's a problem and go back and keep going.
Yeah.
I sit there and I try and figure it out for a while, and I was doing the thing. I'm like, bends his thumb in. Then he makes a gun shape. I'm like, well, how's he going to make a gun shape? Like, is that some sort of weird gun?
I was going to be super explicit and say, and then he re-extends his thumb and bends his 3 fingers and except the pointer finger. I was actually starting to write that. And then I thought, well, just say gun shape. Everyone knows what a gun shape is when.
Yeah, I just didn't figure out. I didn't know if this meant something to go from the 4 to the gun.
No, I get it. That's why I thought, look, Brian, it wasn't clear. That's fine. I don't want to get stuck on this. I can make it more clear. Okay.
Ditto on the second
one. So I'm trying to establish that this is how Bao says no, right? Like when Zeke says, hey, you want some girls? Bao does the exact same gesture. He does this, right? Right? Back of his palm or back of his hand into the palm of his other hand.
Right. I got that. It was the second part I didn't get.
And then, okay, so, well, I mean, whatever that means, right? I mean, it's going to be in the same kind of like general way that I'm going to have to re-describe the finger thing, right? So whatever the actor wants to do, in my mind, it was going to be this and then this, right? I don't know if you can see this, Brian.
Not quite.
The jumping off, right?
Oh, okay.
So what does that mean?
My head went here, by the way. Back of his hand went like this, and then went like this. What's happening?
Hey, you know what? That's fine too. That's fine too. If the actor decides to do that, or he does this and then does something like that, as long as that motion is conveyed, no one is going to know what that means until later. Like they don't understand why they're looking at a train picture, why that is meaningful,
right?
And, maybe it's going to be one of those like second viewing things. Like, oh, we were talking about that train accident thing.
Yeah. Maybe if it's just a tiny bit more explicit, like if you like put a period in between each one of these little actions, just so it's very clear, like this is something that happens. Bao slaps the back of his hand to his palm. Then he makes a jumping off gesture with both hands. Like I didn't know if it was both palms kind of going like this or both hands. Just something simple like that.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I just don't want to get lost. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's fine. I mean, he's going to die. He dies in the next couple pages anyway, so we're not going to have to deal with zombie hand gestures.
Are you sure?
It could go that way. I don't know what these characters are going to do. It's all Pomo.
Take a breath. It's okay.
No, I'm just having some fun here, Brian, but, those points are good points, and it's not something I've ever written before. Like, how do you convey unique gestures, right? Like if you were to say, if a deaf person, you just said so-and-so signs
right
this message, everyone would know what that meant. But since, I don't even know if sign language existed back in 1880, and I don't think Bao would have been taught that as an outlaw. This, I had to find a way to communicate this. You're telling me it's not working, so I have to try to communicate it better.
I just think it's okay to be a little more explicit with the intention. That's all.
Okay.
Maybe he signals his disagreement by doing this and that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I can say that earlier.
Yeah, and then I think you're right. The actor can take that and do what they want to do with it, but it's very clear that at least that's the intention now, and they can make it their own.
I don't want them to make it their own. I want them to do what I tell them to do. Make these finger signs.
Not slapping like this, like this.
Exactly. Read the script.
I'm going to slap you like this. Read the script. It's right there. It's all there.
Yeah.
Speaking of bows gestures, so on top of page 19.
Okay. Bow downs.
Okay, so this is a problem, by the way, because I was reading it. If you listen back to me reading this to you, this is me reading bow down and trying not to laugh as I was reading.
I didn't write that way on purpose. It just, well,
there's another one. So I finally got the bow down, and then later I got to long pauses.
Yeah.
And like, oh God, and I started laughing again in the middle of reading back.
Hey, you know what? When you have character names like this, what are you going to do? Every time I write a character using the word long, don't take too long.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe you can get someone a little more mature to read the stuff for you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So when it says bow down, the rest of his drink and sets it down carelessly. When you're saying carelessly, I mean, is he like dropping it, or is this more like I didn't really understand what he was doing there. Like
I mean, just
like he's getting drunk, or is he
yeah, more or less. I mean, he's trying to forget, they just had this conversation, reminisced over bad memories, so he's trying to, what people do with alcohol, they, try to drown out the bad memories, right? Mm-hmm. And he also is unhappy with his inability to kill people, right? Basically, his brother doesn't want him to kill people.
Yeah.
So, yet he knows he needs to be, he cares for his brother. He cares for Long, right? And so how can he protect his brother if he's not allowed to actually shoot at another person?
Right.
So,
okay.
This is actually, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead. Do you have any else to add here?
Well, it might be a tangential. You might want to say what you were going to say first.
So this is actually one of my concerns. After I wrote this and I sent it over, and I was like rereading some of this to like proofread it because I realized I sent you a bunch of typos. I thought, okay, does this make sense? Why would you send someone into a dangerous bank robbery who can't actually shoot at anybody or kill anybody? Does that make sense? I don't know. And if you're Long, wouldn't you, and you're trying to protect your little brother, wouldn't you say, hey, we're going to go take care of this thing. Why don't you stay at the hotel or whatever it is? Just be safe, be out of the way. So maybe there needs to be more dialogue here. Maybe, a little more back and forth. Bao will point to himself forcefully and then point at Long forcefully. And then Long will translate for the audience watching, saying, look, I know you want to protect me, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't know. I'm just saying. I feel like right now, it's a little thin.
Right. And it's not like he could be lookout even.
Right, exactly.
Because of his
yeah.
impediment. I don't have an answer for that right now.
I know. The movie's broken. Fundamentally broken right now. This is why you need to outline, Brian. So you can find the gaps.
Well, what is Bao telling you? I don't know. He just keeps slapping his hands.
Exactly. I don't know. I just write down the things I see.
Okay, well. I don't have a great answer for that. I don't even have a good one.
Give me a bad one.
That he serves a purpose to kind of signal silently to his brother when he sees something. Almost like a lookout, but just a lookout for Long, because Long is kind of locked into him during these encounters. But that wouldn't play necessarily because of, on the train it plays, but like when he's having that little dialogue with Sam, I don't think Long was aware that Bao's gun was trained on Sam, so Sam, demurred. Maybe he was, and maybe that would help kind of sell that idea. But like I said, it's not a great idea, but it's something. Like he knows he has his back, even if he's just going to scare someone away.
Well, yes. That's. I think we're getting closer, but I think what would convince an audience? Okay, that's really all we need to do. The logic here doesn't have to be airtight. As long as the audience understands the reason, like it's a good enough reason for the audience to have Bao there, even though he is essentially useless in a life and death situation.
Right.
Maybe Bao can say something like, basically say what I just said. Why don't I just stay at the hotel then, right? Signing like, something like that. And then Long can say, and what if you got in trouble here? How could I ever like hear you or know or whatever, right? I want you with me so that I can keep an eye on you, or so that I have the ability to protect you. Plus, and then he can add, the other thing you said, plus, it's good to have, just having you with a rifle pointed at people is effective.
Right.
This is not the dialogue. I'm just saying these are the reasons that the audience will be receiving.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea that the Long brothers always do everything together anyway. I mean, that could be its own reason.
He can even say that, right? We're the Fang brothers.
Right. Not the Fang guy.
Yeah. That just makes this is unrelated, Brian. Unrelated. So I've got another friend. I have two friends. This is the other one. So my other friend.
What does that make me?
You're my collaborator. So Fang, you said Fang guy, right? My friend who in high school he had ringworm for the longest time. He had a ringworm.
Let's not mention names.
What?
Let's not mention names.
Yeah, exactly. So he had ringworm, and he just like had it for like months. Like it was never ending because he was on the wrestling team, and it was just like, they were just giving it back and forth to each other. A lot of skin contact, right?
Yes.
And so he, he was so sick of it that it's like gallows humor. He started to like create comic book characters around ringworm. And so he created a character called Fungi. And this is a true story. I'm not just being cute.
I believe you.
He had a sidekick, or maybe it was a romance interest in this comic book, and her name was Fungal, which I thought sold it all to me. I thought that was the clever part.
Yes.
Anyway, so there you are, Brian. Wasn't sure how long that was going to take either, so I didn't time that story. Where were we? I think did we solve this problem?
I think so. I think you have to listen back, but it's there.
Yeah, it was all like floating in the back of my head.
It's fine. I just signed a bunch of things to you. So one thing, I'm not sure. I'm guessing. I'm not sure you're trying to be this deliberate, but it's just more of a comment. I like that. At least it looks like most of the time when he goes in Cantonese, it's like the more tender, brotherly moments.
Right. Yeah.
I just think that's a cool thing. You know what I mean? Like if anyone overhears him, they're never going to overhear that stuff where it's like the deeper,
exactly
brotherly love stuff. I thought that's kind of cool. Especially this one right here is really nice in the middle of or towards the top of 19. I really like that one. All right. So more practical stuff down to the bottom of 19. When Zeke says, "Bao, you still carry dynamite on you."
Yeah.
And Bao reveals that he does. He says, perfect. That'll come in handy if we can't persuade old Booney to open the vault. I don't like when I'm watching something and if they don't say yes, then what's the backup to this idea? It's like, well, okay, we're just going to go with plan A and, there is no backup anymore. Like it sounds almost flippant, but if it's maybe if there's a little bit more preface to it. So like, he knows he always carries it on him rather than just asking him. So like, wow, I trust you still got, I trust you still carry dynamite on you. Something more like that's a little bit more perceptible to their history. I think it might be a little bit better than the straight up question. That make sense?
I feel like that line change is a distinction without a difference. You still carry dynamite on you? I trust you still carry dynamite.
It's subtle, I know. Is it going to play into the story?
Well, look, this can change, really. It's almost like a little marker for me. Like, hey, I'm setting something up.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it doesn't. Like, I just created a boony character out of nowhere, right? So here's my thought process. So we need a bank manager because we need someone who is in the bank to like be threatened or something, right? Just to have that dynamism in that scene. Okay. But maybe we don't. It's going to be the dead of night. We already have all of these zombies and things running around town. I don't know. But what if we do? I'd like to just have him established right now. So that's the boony guy. But as far as the dynamite goes, the dynamite isn't going to be used for the bank. The dynamite's going to be used in the climax where, they're doing their best to hold off the zombies in the bar, but obviously, it's an old rickety saloon. The front doors are the ones that freaking swing. So, it's like, how long can you actually hold off a horde of zombies, right? As they're like breaking through the windows and stuff like that. They're going to try to like barricade the front thing with like the upright piano and put some tables and stuff as they're trying to get through the barred doors of the secret passage. Okay. So this is where they do their little last stand. As as their hope is dwindling because they can't get through the door fast enough, Chief turns into a zombie. They got to have a little blaze of glory fight with Chief. I was thinking, and this actually comes from one of our viewers who contacted me separately, but he suggested maybe the dynamite comes into play here. And I'm not sure if he had suggested that that bow shows up and gets blown up, but I kind of like that idea, right? So we have this moment where Bao, in this melee, Long recognizes his brother in the horde, that his brother's walking around again. And I don't know if I'm going to have a surreal moment where he doesn't see Bao the zombie, he sees Bao his brother, right? And he looks like he's alive, like, because this is his mind's eye that the audience is seeing. And then he switches back to zombie Bao, and that signifies Long letting go of his brother, right? Just to add a little bit of a human element here. And, we think they're all going to die because the zombies are breaking in. Sorry, I'm being long-winded here, but just trying to get my thoughts out. But Long remembers that the dynamite is on Bao, and he shoots the dynamite, blowing up this current pack of zombies and taking like the front of the saloon with them. So it buys them a little time.
Okay. I mean, it's a scary thing to be walking around with too, right? Because anyone else could do that if they know it's there.
Yeah, sure. Who can make that shot though? I mean, it's freaking on, stick of dynamite. You know how hard it is to hit a stick of dynamite?
I do not.
I'm just saying.
I would imagine it's rather difficult.
Well, that's why you have expert sharpshooter Long with his, super Asian shooting skills.
Okay, so
wait, was that idea crap, Brian? Because I heard you stifling a yawn there.
No.
I'm very good at hearing the stifled yawns. That's how I know, like, ooh, I'm being long-winded here.
I was wondering if Bao was going to make a reappearance. Actually, no, I don't know if it's a good or bad idea yet. I like the idea. I always like the idea of something very personal having to take place, and Long having to, yes, buy them some time, but also shoot his brother, even if it's not his brother. I always like those personal, like, development choices. I mean, that to me is like, that's a tough thing, for a brother to do, even if his brother's already dead. It's almost like he saw his brother die, and now he has to kill him again, even though he's already dead. It's like, it doesn't rationally make sense because he's already dead. Who cares?
Right.
But there's an emotional weight to it, which I think is interesting.
Totally. The reason I love zombies as a movie monster is because they look like human beings. And that in and of itself adds that little bit of irrationality for the survivors, that even though they're monsters, they look like human beings. So it's hard to get away from, killing something that looks like a human being, especially if you know that human being.
Yeah. That is such an interesting thing you just said. And I don't know what your plans were in terms of when they become zombies, but if they become more human-like zombies than we've seen in all the movies in the past, not super speed, not super slow speed, and just blood dripping from everywhere, but they almost look human.
They bust out cell phones.
Exactly.
Yeah, modern zombie. Facebook.
Yeah, they're chasing people, but they're just looking down the whole time on the phone. So they never really catch anyone. New millennial zombies.
Exactly. I just want to sleep.
But I haven't seen that before, is what I'm saying. And maybe this goes more towards your infected versus zombies, because I gather the idea behind a zombie is that, there's no longer circulating blood, so they turn white, their skin gets loose, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe this is not quite that, and they still have a vessel that sort of functions. Maybe it turns them maybe there's something weird about it, but I like the idea of them feeling more human than I've seen in the past. Because I don't think there's a lot. Maybe I obviously haven't seen as much as you, but whenever I have seen zombies being killed, it's typically, they're just ravenous, and it's not really hard to kill them. I mean, maybe there's a kid zombie in there or something, so you get that little emotional bite, but I think you can have a lot of fun with that emotionally, depending on who dies and starts, getting infected.
Totally.
I don't think that answers the dynamite thing, just because nothing you're saying right now has happened. So they're planning for a heist. So I guess maybe it's something like, one thing that would really help would be if you had that dynamite on you, so it's not a necessity.
How's this? Mm-hmm. Instead of saying relying on Bao's habit of having dynamite, how about he says, "Did you bring the dynamite I asked for?"
Oh, okay. Bao's like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't have a phone. What are you talking about? You never talk to me.
No, I mean,
but yeah.
Because here's the thing: the reason the dynamite is believable in this situation, like we would have it, is because they aren't. That's their MO.
Right.
They blow up the tracks.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. So
I think that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or how about we have Long say something. Your message said something about bring dynamite. What's that about, or something, right?
I love that every time you do a little hymn, you slip into the dialogue.
I'm working it out. A lot of the way I write his lines, I say it, and I say,
of course, because they're talking to you.
Well, it's more like, how am I going to say this line on our recording, on our weekend show? Sometimes I'll say the line, I'm like, oh, I sound like I'm from California, which I am.
Right.
So I got to change it. So put a lot of O's in there so I can say yo. That sounds Chinese, right? Yo.
Can we move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Page 20. This is I guess this is my big note of the of this episode.
Okay.
So bear with me for a second, but when Zeke says at the top, towards the top, let's go over that in the morning. Right now, I owe you to a couple of girls. I felt like he was being pretty fast and loose. I was surprised that Long had agreed to doing the job before he actually knew the plan. Now that he's specifically asking what the plan is, he's not being told, and he seems like he's A-okay with it. And you want to interrupt? Go ahead.
Do I sound terrible?
What way?
Okay, thank God. So
no, it didn't happen.
Okay, because I saw my screen flash, and I was like, oh no, I just bought this new thing.
You're fine.
All right.
Anti-screen flashing voice activator is
Good.
Working.
Perfect. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Continue.
Yeah, so so I had an issue with that because I think that Long appears to me as, since he's someone who's kind of the leader of the Long Feng gang, he appears very learned when he's talking to the train people, where he's obviously got a level of intelligence that maybe the other townfolk will not have. So he seems like he's a really smart guy. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And for him to be, first off, okay to agree to the plan and not know what it is. Second off, to ask what the plan is, not being told what it is until the day of the job, seems a little disingenuous. And so one thought I had was maybe restructuring the conversation a little bit to, Zeke he knows what the loot is. He knows where it's at. He knows the details, but he needs Long. One of the reasons he needs Long is because Long is the great planner. He's the smart one, so that, the conversation could shift a little bit to Zeke saying, what do you think? And Long saying, that doesn't give me a lot of time to come up with a plan. Let's get together tomorrow morning and I'll have something by then. In the meantime, let's get those girls or something like that. So kind of shifting the responsibility to the guy that we want to plan.
That's genius. That's perfect. Solves the problem.
Okay.
I mean, I was happy to write the plan and do the whole Ocean's 11 thing where like, we're zooming, we got to take care of this guard and all of this, right? Blah, blah, blah. But then I thought, that's just a lot of crap to set up that never happens.
Right.
So I like your plan. That's perfect.
Okay, good.
Let's just do that. Yeah, and Long can't case the place right now because the posse is still around.
There you go.
There you go.
Might as well get some girls.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't need much of an excuse, but let's use that.
Right.
All right. So at the bottom of 20, the reason I stumbled on this when I was reading it is because I stumbled on it when I read it like 8 times.
Okay.
And it said across from him is the 9 lives cat house where men practically jog toward and other men stumble out.
Yeah.
I don't know, something about that I just kept stumbling on, man.
It probably is grammatically incorrect.
I couldn't tell. I looked at it for a while. It was late though. But I kind of got stuck on that.
It probably should read, across from him is the 9 lives cat house to which men practically jog toward.
Mm-hmm.
No, that doesn't make sense. To which men practically jog. I mean, that reads horribly, but that's grammatically correct, right?
I think I just changed it into 2 sentences. Across from him is the 9 lives cat house.
But it would have busted my 4-line thing.
Semicolon. Men practically.
Yeah.
Is it? Don't you already want to? You only have three lines, 3 sentences. You can still make it 4 lines out of 4 sentences.
Well,
plus with what I'm about to ask for, it's going to get even shorter.
All right.
I don't like the waving handkerchiefs and beckoning men.
Why?
It just seems so cliche. Like I've seen that. Oh, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought it was like, sultry men standing on the veranda above the entrance was like, I got the visual immediately. I didn't need the extra little.
What if that actually happened in the Old West?
Even if it did, I don't know, man. I just bumped on a little bit. Like I want them to maybe like stare at them, in a sultry way, or beckon at them with their eyes or something where it's not just like, hee, I'm waving my handkerchief, beckoning man. I don't know. I don't like it.
Okay. Wow.
You're just like, tough.
Well,
Move on. What's next?
I mean, I won't take every note. I mean, I consider everything, but that to me is like, I'll consider it, Brian. How's that? I'll consider it.
That's fine. And you had another friend you said was pretty interested in this podcast or this show, right?
Yeah, I do. I'll have to shave his head.
Do I need to ship him a mic? And
no, man, come on.
All right. Let's see. When we get to 22, that's after that whole conversation between Long. That's actually in the middle of the conversation between Everett and Long.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I thought that was really tight. I know you didn't perform it like this, but when you're saying, quieter to himself,
yeah,
those things are subtle. And I don't know, I think this is very cinematic the way you wrote it. I like that a lot. On top of 22, when he says, what's the name of the next one? And the one after that, I was like, well, I think he knows the name of the next one because it's going to be him, right? It's going to be Marshal Everett James. So I felt like it played better if you just took those two lines out and just said, how many more men have to die for your cause?
He's talking about deputies, though.
Okay. I guess I didn't distinguish. I just saw it as lawmen, but.
Okay.
Marshal, okay. Last deputy. Well, there's not a deputy there, though, is there?
No.
So I just took it as lawmen at that point.
Okay. I just like it's a pattern he's establishing. He's asking for names, right?
Right. So what's the name of the next deputy? I'd be like, it's just me here, man. What do you mean, what's the name of the next deputy? Do you know what I mean? It just didn't tie together with what I was saying now. I mean, I don't know who would be his deputy in this situation. Is that Sam? Because he's the sheriff, or deputy is a guy who travels with the.
I mean, okay, I'll consider that. That's fine.
I just think it's just as strong if you went right into how many more men have to die for your cause. Because I think that's where the strength of the strength is actually the stuff before it, when he's naming names or having him name his own names. That was like impactful because this guy is getting quietly angrier as he's talking to Long. So by the time he gets to that last bit, I think it plays just as well with how many more men, or how many more of your men have to die, whatever, for your cause. None. I think that's really good.
All right.
Okay, so when Everett's eyes flash and he hooks the length of his duster around his holster to make his gun access to his gun easier. This is also in the middle of 22, and Long responds, "Oh, shizzle." You read it a certain way. I didn't know how to read it when I was reading it. Like, he seemed surprised the way I read it. And I'm like, why is he surprised? Because he's been goading him along. Of course this is going to happen next.
Well, I wanted him to be I wanted to establish that Everett is not, that it's not going to be an easy fight. That Long is actually there is a bit of fear that Long feels with this particular Marshal.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping that, and I know my performance probably didn't capture it, and maybe I need to put something in the action or the description to convey this, but basically I wanted Long to basically be presenting it's just bravado to kind of get the Marshal to, go away.
Right. Yeah, and I felt like when he wrote, for a moment, Everett looks like he might consider it. And if Long had kind of continued down that path, then maybe Everett would have been thinking to himself, like, one-on-one, I know this guy's reputation, I may not be able to take him, and that's why he's thinking about it. But then when Long goes into the next little section about don't you miss your wife, your children, how many years, blah, blah, that whole thing, It's like, it's just light a fire under this guy,
Of course.
I didn't know if he was planning to just like mess with him at that point. You know what I mean?
Long doesn't know, right, about what happened.
Oh, he doesn't know.
No.
Okay.
He just knows that the train went down. He doesn't know that Everett was on that train with his family, which is why when he says these things, Everett's like, oh, you know, I'm not going to be convinced now. You just reminded me why I've been chasing you for 10 years.
Okay, I got you. All right, then I'm going to make a very subtle suggestion. This is going to be one of those things where you're like, that's exactly what I just wrote with one word change.
All right.
It will be then. I would take out O.
Oh, all right.
I think it reads better than just as like, almost like, damn it. You know, I thought I had him. Because I didn't. Okay, I see what you're saying now. You're saying it's more sincere when he's saying, how long have I separated you from your family?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, when I was reading it, because I didn't recall that, for some reason I thought he knew because of my memory. But now that I see he's just being sincere and trying to, you know, get him to put down his weapon or not, you know, not actually do the fight, then I think it makes more sense. And then you add a little bit at the end of the next Everett speech. So from my version.
Right, because I read it and I'm like, wait a second, their families are going to see justice. Normally, the criminal sees justice, and the family or the victim sees justice is done.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I got to fix that. And then I stopped myself because I was like, my script is going to be vastly different from what Brian is reading. I need to stop making changes and just realize that I need to be more polished next time when I send it to Brian.
I have crossed out my note there.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 23, when Long says, touch that gun, I'll send you to hell.
Yeah.
Bow instinctively grabs his rifle. So I think there has to be some indication that, because I know he's already talking loud enough to speak.
I know. This is a problem. Totally. I'm like, where the hell were you? What the hell were you listening to, Bow? Jesus. I mean, the street has gone alien quiet. Right. You know, people are like running indoors. Like you'd think like people in the saloon would be like, there's a fight outside. You know what I mean?
Right. So if he doesn't hear something specific, then, you know, maybe someone does come in at that point, you know, just to kind of indicate to Bow that something's going on outside, some outside force, rather than him just hearing that particular line. Or if Long, you know, at the top of his lungs, like, you know, touch that gun, I'll send you to hell.
Yeah.
You know, then all of a sudden he's like, maybe that makes more sense. Like, this is the first time he would actually hear his brother. I think either one of those works, but I just think there needs to be some sort of delineation there.
Okay. I'll throw in a little Riley here where it says he's shouting.
Yeah, there you go. Then I think you've solved that issue. Those are all the notes I had, man. Other than don't ever leave me in the middle of a fight.
I know, bro. I felt the same way. But I was like, oh man, it's gonna be.
And suddenly, what?
You know, I was writing on my lunch hour. You know, I had to get back to work, so I'm like, oh. But how many more pages is going to be to write this fight? And you know, it's not like when I write, I'm just here writing and writing away. You know, I have to get up. I got to walk around. I got to like act it out a little bit.
Yep.
Like initially they were 100 feet away from each other. And I'm like, wait a second, that's really far away. Can they even hear each other at that point?
What?
Yeah. Did you ever watch any of the Kung Fu Panda movies?
No.
In the second movie, the villain, it's towards the end. I'm not going to give too much detail, but this is a funny part.
Spoiler alert, people.
Well, this is minor, just minor. The villain is on this boat, right? And he seems to be very close to victory. And Po the panda reemerges to thwart his plans at the last moment, right? In the final hour. And Po is on this like rooftop and he's like giving this heroic speech or whatever. And, you know, the camera's with Po, right? And he's yelling, I will stop you. I don't know the dialogue. And then it cuts to the villain's perspective and he just sees Po like really far away and his voice is really muted. And the villain's like, what? What's he saying? That's what I imagined. So now they're 50 feet.
No excuse, man. No excuse to stop in the middle of a fight. Work could have waited, is all I'm saying, for another few pages. Yeah.
You know, my coworkers watch this show, Brian. So
give this guy a break. Let him write. That's all I'm saying. Cover for him.
Nice. Okay, Brian. Well, good notes. Apologies to everybody if I got a little long-winded there. You know, this is the writing process for me. I just have to talk out the ideas, and hopefully I say something that's worth putting down and eventually worth watching.
I don't think any apologies are necessary, man. I thought that was a really good show. I thought you did. You know, there weren't actually that many notes on the script itself. You know, and I think it's nice to flesh it out, even though we're talking about things that are going to happen. You know, it's kind of nice to help set the table a little bit so I can think about it, even though I'll probably forget.
That's why we're recording all of these things, Brian.
I'll never watch.
For posterity.
I'll never watch.
Okay, so I just want to remind everybody that our website is letswritethismovie.com, where you can find new pages every Thursday-ish, depending on if my life gets in the way or not. But definitely during the week, you'll find new pages, and I encourage everyone to read them and leave notes either on the website or on our YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed this show, please like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel, and we're really trying to get it to grow. So please tell your friends and family. Brian, anything else?
That's it, man. I've enjoyed it. I look forward to next week, as always.
Fantastic. We will see you next week.
See you then.
I'm recording now, so don't say anything racist. Leave that to me.
No, I've finished all my racist remarks.
Okay, good.